Welcome, everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into the essential strategies that really underpin business success.
That's right. We'll be exploring the fundamentals of organization, drawing insights from a guide titled 8 Strategic Steps to Organize Your Company and Maximize Its Potential.
And this guide tackles something absolutely fundamental for any business, doesn't it? How getting organized drives productivity, innovation, and, well, sustainable growth.
Exactly. We're going to look at how these 8 steps offer a really practical framework for reshaping how businesses operate, whether they're just starting out or are more established corporations.
hmm And we know that many of you listening are probably facing the challenges that come with managing or growing a business.
Oh, definitely. That feeling of being overwhelmed by endless tasks, maybe feeling like your energy is scattered, it's very common.
So our goal today is really to give you a shortcut, a direct path to understanding the key strategies for bringing order and ultimately better performance to your business.
Our mission, if you like, in this deep dive, is to pull out the most critical ideas from these 8 steps. We want to provide a clear, actionable framework for structuring any venture.
A framework that helps boost productivity, sparks innovation, and supports that crucial long-term growth.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the first step identified in the text. Establish a clear organizational structure. Why is this starting point so vital?
Well, think of a clear organizational structure as the skeleton of the company. Without that clarity on roles and responsibilities, you inevitably get um, operational confusion, duplicated efforts.
Right, and internal friction too, I imagine.
Exactly. All things that just drain efficiency. It's like the foundation of a building without a solid base. The whole thing is unstable.
The guide suggests designing an org chart. What key information should that really capture?
A good org chart needs to clearly show the different departments or functional areas, the specific roles within each, and crucially, the reporting lines.
So who reports to whom?
Yes, visualizing who's accountable to whom and the lines of authority is essential for clarity.
The guide gives some practical examples, doesn't it? Comparing different types of businesses.
It does. It contrasts, for instance, a retail store structure, often hierarchical, with a general manager, sales supervisors, inventory staff with, say, a tech startup.
Which might be flatter.
Right, maybe more horizontal with cross-functional teams working collaboratively on projects. The key takeaway is how the business type and its stage of development really influence the most suitable structure.
There's also a specific case study mentioned about a catering company.
Ah, yes, that's a great illustration.
Yeah.
This company, with about 20 employees, implemented a structure that explicitly separated the kitchen, logistics, and customer service teams.
And the result.
A significant 30% reduction in the time spent coordinating between these departments, a huge boost in operational efficiency.
Wow. So just defining those roles clearly made a big difference.
It wasn't just separation, but also creating dedicated communication channels between them that addressed the previous chaos of, last-minute requests and changes.
Makes sense. Are there any tools the guide suggests to help create these org charts?
Yeah, it mentions several software platforms like Lucidchart, Canva, and Microsoft Visio.
Yeah.
These make it easier to design and, importantly, update these charts as things change.
Keeping them dynamic.
Exactly. Visualizing the structure clearly helps everyone in the company understand it.
And one really important point emphasized is the need to review this structure regularly.
Absolutely crucial. The organizational structure isn't set in stone. It has to evolve with the business. The recommendation is to review it every, say, 3 to 6 months.
To adapt to new hires, expansions, strategic shifts.
Precisely. And just as important is communicating any changes clearly to the whole team to avoid uncertainty and keep everyone aligned.
Okay, that covers structure. Step 2 focuses on defining strategic goals and objectives. How important is this?
Goals are essentially the lighthouse, guiding the organization's decisions and efforts. Without well-defined targets, there's a real risk the team loses direction, and resources get, wasted on activities that don't move the needle.
They're the compass, basically.
Exactly, the compass setting the course.
The guide introduces the SMART framework for setting these goals. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. SMART is an acronym reminding us that goals need to be specific, clear, and well-defined, measurable with quantifiable indicators to track progress, achievable, realistic given the available resources and capabilities,
Relevant.
yes, aligned with the company's overall mission and strategy, and time-bound with a specific deadline for completion.
And there's an example in the guide that highlights this well, contrasting a vague goal with a smart one.
Right. Instead of just saying improve marketing, which is pretty fuzzy.
Very fuzzy.
A smart goal would be something like increase web traffic by 25% in 4 months through implementing SEO tactics and social media ad campaigns. Much more precise and actionable.
You know exactly what you're aiming for and how you plan to get there. What about tools for managing and tracking these goals?
The guide suggests platforms like Monday.com and ClickUp. These tools allow you to assign ownership for goals, track KPIs, those key performance indicators, and monitor progress effectively.
Makes it visible for the whole team.
Yes, visibility is key. There's also a practical case study mentioned, a dental clinic.
Ah, yes. Tell us about that.
So this clinic set a goal to increase monthly appointments by 15% within 6 months using local Google Ads campaigns.
And did they hit it?
They actually exceeded it, achieving an 18% increase by the 5th month. It just shows the power of setting clear, measurable targets.
That's a great result. The guide also mentions involving employees and setting goals.
That's a really important point. Involving staff fosters greater commitment and a sense of ownership toward the company's objectives.
Makes them feel part of it.
Exactly. Plus, the guide advises breaking down larger, long-term goals into smaller, more manageable quarterly milestones. This helps maintain motivation and makes tracking progress easier.
Okay, structure and goals. Step 3 deals with optimizing processes and workflows. Why is this so critical?
Inefficient processes are like a constant drain on time and money. Optimizing workflows isn't just about improving operational efficiency, though that's huge. It also frees up resources.
Resources for innovation.
Precisely. For innovation and strategic development, things that actually grow the business.
So what are the recommended actions for optimizing these processes?
The fundamental action is to map out existing processes in detail. You need to see them clearly to identify bottlenecks, redundant tasks, or unnecessary steps.
Find the kinks in the system.
Exactly. Then the next step is to standardize the improved processes by creating standard operating procedures, or SOPs.
Documenting the best way to do things.
Right. So everyone is consistent.
Are there tech tools that can help with this optimization?
Yes. Project management software like Trello and Asana are mentioned. And also ERP systems, enterprise resource planning systems like Odoo or NetSuite.
ERPs. Can you explain what they do briefly?
Sure. ERPs are basically integrated software suites that combine various business functions. Think accounting, inventory, project management into one system. This gives you a holistic view and allows for automation of interconnected processes.
Got it. They can automate tasks from project tracking to invoicing.
Exactly. The guide gives an example of a clothing factory.
What did they achieve?
They managed to reduce their production time by 20% by implementing an ERP system to automate order tracking. This eliminated manual errors and really streamlined their workflow.
That's a significant improvement. What are some important considerations when implementing new processes like this?
Well, proper team training on the new methods is essential. You can't just drop a new system on people.
True.
And it's often wise to run pilot tests on a smaller scale before a full rollout. Then afterwards, you absolutely need to measure the impact using relevant metrics like process cycle time or error rates to see if the changes actually worked.
Measure, adjust, improve. Okay, step 4 moves on to something vital. Organizing finances rigorously. Why is sound financial management so indispensable?
Rigorous financial management is really the bedrock for stability and sustainable growth. A lack of control in this area, well, it can quickly lead to cash flow problems, unexpected debt, and poor decision-making based on incomplete or just plain wrong information.
They're flying blind, essentially.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So what are the core actions needed for good financial organization?
What does the guide recommend?
It stresses the need to record all financial activity, income, expenses, liabilities, cash flow accurately and in real time. No delays.
Okay.
Also, creating detailed budgets for each department or area, and regularly reviewing key financial statements.
Like the balance sheet and income statement?
Exactly. Ideally on a monthly basis to keep a close eye on things.
What about software tools for this?
For smaller businesses, accounting software like QuickBooks, Xero, or Wave are often recommended. For larger, more complex organizations, ERP solutions with integrated financial modules like SAP or Oracle NetSuite are suggested.
And there's a practical example here, too, involving a restaurant.
Yes, this restaurant started using QuickBooks and implemented weekly financial reviews.
Weekly? Okay, that's quite frequent.
It allowed them to quickly spot excessive spending on ingredients. By identifying that, they could renegotiate with suppliers and ended up saving 10% in that cost category.
Shows the value of timely data. Any other financial management tips?
Yes, the guide strongly advises engaging a professional accountant or financial advisor for, say, quarterly audits. Getting that external expert perspective is invaluable.
A fresh pair of eyes.
Exactly. And also, maintaining an emergency fund may be equivalent to 3 to 6 months of operating expenses to handle unexpected events is just prudent planning.
Good advice. Okay, let's move to step 5, strengthening internal communication. What role does effective communication play within an organization?
Effective communication is really the connective tissue that holds teams together. Without clear, fluid communication channels, misunderstandings arise, tasks get delayed, and frustration can build up among team members.
Things fall through the cracks.
Precise.
So what steps can be taken to actually strengthen that internal communication?
It's important to establish both formal channels, things like regular team meetings, status reports, and informal channels, like using instant messaging platforms.
A mix of both.
Yes, and also defining clear protocols for resolving conflicts and fostering a culture where feedback flows both ways, up and down the organization.
What about tech tools to support communication?
The guide suggests instant messaging platforms like Slack, Microsoft Teams, or even WhatsApp for quick daily communication. For virtual meetings, tools like Zoom or Google Meet are obvious choices.
There's an example of a marketing agency.
Right. This agency implemented very short, weekly 15-minute check-in meetings and used Slack for quick project updates.
15 minutes, that's efficient.
Very. And the result was a remarkable 40% reduction in internal email volume. It streamlined communication and freed up time for actual work.
That's impressive. Any final tips for improving internal comms?
I think the key is cultivating a culture of transparency, where employees feel safe and encouraged to share ideas or voice concerns. Using anonymous surveys can also be a valuable tool to gauge the effectiveness of current communication channels and pinpoint areas for improvement.
Good point. Okay, step 6, tackles. Training and developing the team. Why is this seen as a strategic investment?
Well, a well-trained team is fundamentally more productive. They also tend to be more innovative and, importantly, more loyal to the organization.
Reduces turnover.
Exactly. Investing in professional development not only improves individual and team performance, but also helps retain talent, which saves significant costs in the long run.
So how can businesses identify the training needs of their team?
Training needs can often be identified through performance reviews, both individual and team assessments. These can highlight areas where skills, whether technical or interpersonal, need improvement. Then you can design targeted training programs.
And what kinds of learning opportunities can be offered?
There's a wide range. You could offer online courses, in-person workshops, internal mentoring programs, or support participation in industry conferences and seminars.
Are there specific platforms or resources mentioned?
Online platforms like Coursera, Udemy, or LinkedIn Learning offer a vast array of accessible courses. For developing very specific skills, hiring external experts or consultants might be the way to go.
The guide shares an example from a logistics company, I believe.
It does. This company implemented a training program for its drivers, focusing on road safety and route optimization.
And the outcome?
They achieved a 25% reduction in accidents and also saw significant improvements in delivery times, a clear return on investment.
Definitely. How can businesses measure the impact of this training?
It's important to set an annual budget specifically for training and then define key metrics to evaluate its impact. This could be increased productivity, improved quality of work, or even higher customer satisfaction scores.
Track the results. Makes sense. Step 7 is about adopting appropriate technology. How should businesses approach choosing tech tools?
Choosing the right technology can be transformative for efficiency and competitiveness, but the wrong choice can be costly and actually create operational headaches.
A double-edged sword.
It can be. So it's crucial to first assess the organization's specific needs in areas like collaboration, data security, data storage, and then select tools that are scalable. They need to grow with the business.
Future-proofing.
Right. And the guide generally recommends prioritizing cloud-based solutions because of their flexibility and remote accessibility.
What kinds of specific tools are mentioned?
Things like collaboration suites, Google Workspace is mentioned, cloud storage platforms like Dropbox or OneDrive, and cybersecurity solutions, for example, Norton or CrowdStrike.
And there's a case study of a consultancy firm?
Yes. This consultancy migrated its data to Google Drive and adopted Zoom for communications.
What was the benefit for them?
It allowed them to significantly cut costs associated with maintaining physical servers and also improved collaboration, both internally and with their remote clients.
streamline their operations. What are the important considerations when rolling out new tech?
Again, proper training for the team on how to use the new tools is absolutely fundamental.
Can't skip that step.
No. And equally crucial is establishing clear cybersecurity policies, things like using strong passwords, implementing two-factor authentication to protect the company's valuable information.
Absolutely vital today. Okay, finally, step 8 focuses on monitoring, evaluating, and adjusting. Why is this continuous cycle so essential?
Continuous improvement is just vital for staying competitive in today's dynamic business environment.
Yeah.
Without regular evaluation of processes and results, small problems can go unnoticed until they snowball into major crises.
Proactive versus reactive.
Exactly.
What specific actions are recommended in this stage?
The guide advises conducting internal audits periodically, maybe every 3 to 6 months, to assess process efficiency, financial health, and team satisfaction.
Okay.
And using surveys, both for employees and customers, is also a really useful way to gather valuable feedback.
What tools can help with this monitoring and evaluation?
Software like SurveyMonkey for creating and managing surveys is mentioned, along with data analysis platforms like Tableau. And often, ERP systems have integrated reporting capabilities that are very useful here.
Using the data you already have, there's an example of an online store.
Yes, this online retailer conducted an internal audit which revealed excessively long shipping times were a problem.
What did they do?
Based on that finding, they switched to a new logistics provider, and the result was a 15% improvement in customer satisfaction scores related to delivery.
Direct impact. What's the final recommendation for this step?
It's crucial to act promptly on the findings from these evaluations and, again, communicate the changes being implemented to the team. You need to establish that continuous cycle, plan, execute, evaluate, adjust.
Keeping the business agile and adaptable.
That's the key.
Now, the guide also dedicates some extra space to detailing how to establish effective goals, really emphasizing their importance again. Could you elaborate on those key aspects?
Right, revisits the goal-setting aspect because it's so central. As we touched on with SMART, effective goals need to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. The guide really hammers home the need to avoid vagueness and use metrics you can actually track.
Make them concrete.
Exactly. And ensuring they're realistic but also aligned with the company's mission, plus having those clear deadlines.
It also introduces the OKR framework as another method. What's that about?
Yes, OKR's objectives and key results popularized by companies like Google. This framework involves setting an ambitious, qualitative objective.
The big picture goal.
Right, and then pairing it with 2 to 5 key results. These key results are specific, measurable metrics that indicate progress towards achieving that main objective.
Can you give us an example of an OKR?
Sure, the guide provides one.
Yeah.
Objective, improve the customer experience. Key results could be reduce query response time by 50%, achieve a Net Promoter Score, NPS of 80, and train 100% of the customer service team on new protocols.
Very specific outcomes tied to the broader goal. Are there tools for implementing OKRs?
Yes, there are specific software platforms designed for OKR management, like Workboard and GTeam Hub. They help with assigning ownership, tracking progress, and reporting.
And regular reviews are important here, too.
Absolutely. Regular progress reviews, perhaps weekly or monthly meetings, are fundamental to the OKR process to keep things on track.
Okay, so we've walked through these 8 detailed steps. How does implementing all this directly connect back to the challenges our listeners might be facing in managing their businesses?
Well, implementing these steps provides a clear roadmap to tackle those common pain points we talked about earlier: lack of clarity in roles, inefficient processes, poor financial control, communication breakdowns, skills gaps, inadequate tech, or just a lack of continuous improvement.
It gives them structure.
Exactly. By applying these strategies, listeners can hopefully have those aha moments, understanding how to structure and optimize their operations for better performance and, crucially, reduce that feeling of being constantly overwhelmed.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main takeaway message our listeners should hold on to?
I think the core message is that organizing a business isn't a one-time fix. It's an ongoing, dynamic process. It requires commitment, strategic planning, and a high degree of adaptability.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Well put. And these 8 steps we've discussed today provide a really comprehensive approach to transform any business into a more efficient, competitive entity.
And ultimately, what are the benefits of achieving that well-organized state?
A well-organized company doesn't just run more smoothly with less internal friction. It also projects confidence both internally to employees and externally to customers and partners.
Builds trust.
It does. And that, in turn, lays the foundation for sustainable growth and opens doors to new and exciting opportunities.
Okay, so to leave our audience with something to think about, reflect on these 8 steps we've explored. Which one do you feel could have the most immediate and significant positive impact on the specific challenges your business is facing right now? Perhaps that's the area worth exploring further first.
That's a great closing thought. Focus on the biggest leverage point first.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.